Hi y'all, it's Kimberly here from Texas. Hi everybody. Thank you for coming to my channel. Today I'm going to do a little bit more of an update on the vote that Nancy Pelosi and her caucus, or actually the whole House of Representatives, voted on the CASH Act, which is the Caring for Americans with Supplemental Help Act. And that's the standalone bill for the $2,000 check. Now, it did pass through the House, but it has to be sent over to the Senate, and then it has to be sent to President Trump, which he's already said, he's the one who wants it absolutely to be raised up to $2,000. But there's a lot of Republicans in the Senate that, they're just not going to vote for it. I know they're not. But in the House vote, 2/3 majority was needed because of the way it was introduced. It's normally has to go through a little bit different process, but this was an emergency expedited process, so the vote needed to let it clear through the House was 2/3 majority vote, which actually I was kind of shocked to find that 2 Democrats did not vote for it. They dissented on the vote. And I think about 44 Republicans did vote for it, so I think that shows an understanding, even in that party, that they understand there's a great need for financial help, not just programs, but financial help to individuals. And I think a huge reason why the Senate will not clear this vote is because it's actually going to add $467 billion to the cost of the bill, because it covers so many people and it's so much money to hand out. So I think that's a huge issue, is just the money alone, that total is a huge amount. But the pork that President Trump talked about trimming off, there's a lot of programs I think that are not so necessary, or certain parts of them they could definitely be trimmed down. And a lot of the foreign policy aid, the list of foreign policy that came out that everybody was shocked about, that happens every year, and we do that with our allies. And America also sometimes gets help, gets aid, and gets little tidbits of, I don't know what, I've never understood that, because I think it's more of a political play with just certain countries, that the way it just works out. I don't really pay too much attention to foreign policy. It's really complicated to me because it's just so many countries. The list was huge, and there's just back and forth and back and forth. So a lot of that was predetermined, months ago, or it may be connected to another program or something that was already passed through Congress months, or it may be something that's been in the works for a year for certain countries that we've dealt with. So that can be a whole mess when you get into that. But there are certain parts of it I'm absolutely surely clear that that it could be eliminated or cut back on. And Chuck Schumer is the Senate Minority Leader, and he has called for a unanimous vote in the Senate for this $2,000 check, which is the reason why I believe that it's not going to happen. So, not enough people are going to vote for it, and I really just don't think it's going to pass. And when they vote, the congressmen and women, they don't have to vote. They can skip the vote, and many people did. I think about 20 House Republicans skipped the vote on this. And House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy of California, he skipped it also, but he was at home he just was recovering from surgery or something like that, I believe. But the thing is, they can vote by proxy. They don't have to be on the floor to vote. They can also vote by proxy, and none of them wanted to do that. So that shows, their true feeling in this moment of crisis, that they just didn't vote and they didn't care to vote. So that says a lot about how they're not taking it so seriously about the crush on the economy, especially for people in working class and in the poor. That's the way that it's affecting us this bad. The amount of house foreclosures, and one thing people haven't really talked about is car repossession. It's, you know, millions of people are behind on their car payments, and most of them will probably lose their cars if they don't come to some resolution in the next 30 or 60 days. And some people have already, I don't know how many, I don't have an exact number, but tons of people have already lost their cars. And one of the things that I'm so disgusted on this. This is so un-Texan-like. I'm really disgusted on this. Kevin Brady of the Ways and Means Committee, he's a Texas Republican. He made this statement a little while ago, and it was, I'm going to read it off because I don't want to, I wrote it down so I can get it correct. Nothing in this bill helps anybody back to work, okay? How the hell would you know? What are you talking about? Open your eyes. People cannot get to work if their car gets repossessed. If they get a new job and they don't have gas money for 2 or 3 weeks till they get their first check, what good is a job, And being able to get a job right now, it's not guaranteed if it's going to be steady, if it's going to be part-time. The economy is just in such a wave with the closures and the regulations going back and forth, open, close, or you can't have hair salons open, you can't have restaurants only 25% capacity, or, that cuts out a huge amount of the workforce. So in order for there to be jobs, these businesses have to be allowed to open, which, we're in the middle of a pandemic and you risk getting sick. We've gone over 300, the last time I checked, I think it was 338,000 people who have died by COVID-related issues. And I'm more aware of it now when I'm going somewhere, because of my asthma and my respiratory issues. The first couple of months, I really didn't pay that much attention until I started, seeing more and more reports of, the people dying and hospitals being overcrowded. And I know that when I've gone into the hospital for being sick or not, I've only been in the hospital 2 times. That was for my kidney stones. But I've had to go to the emergency room a couple of times for my respiratory, my asthma, getting a bronchial infection. And it's hard to breathe. I mean, it can be very scary. And I was never affected like this when I was a child or when I was younger. It's just in my older years. Now I'm getting more susceptible to that. And usually I get 1, 2, maybe 3 times I'll get a bronchial issue per year. Probably in the past 10 to 15 years, I guess. And I haven't been sick at all this whole time through the pandemic. Not at all. And I've been wearing a mask for, I guess, maybe the first couple months I didn't, but then I slowly started to wear a mask. And I'm amazed that I haven't gotten any kind of infection or anything, because I usually already have like 1 or 2 by now. In the middle of wintertime, I'm usually, get hit pretty hard. But it hasn't happened to me. And so for this guy to say, I'm just, how disconnected are you? You're on the Ways and Means Committee, which is, well, okay, let me explain that. It's from high school, if I can remember, it is a committee that determines the ways and means to raise revenue. That's the way I remembered it. For certain programs, they have a little bit of jurisdiction over certain areas of government, making recommendations. I think, like, I want to say that has to do with taxation or Social Security. They make recommendations and regulations for certain areas of government, and I don't remember all of them, but I'm just using those two things as example. But for you to be on a committee like that, and you know all the knowledge, because they have to research a lot of things to determine, how much money and what type of regulations, because of certain situations or issues that deal with that particular, like Social Security, for example, however many elderly people may need a program for getting new glasses or something like that. I don't know, just insert any kind of issue, social issue that may affect how much money they need to put into a program. And he's, the leader of that, one of the top parts of that committee, and he should have the knowledge of how hard it is sometimes, and the numbers, and have the research available to him to understand certain situations. But he can't understand this pandemic. That is insane. And just I think your Texas card citizenship should be repealed because you can't get it through your fat head, Kevin McCarthy, that this is a time period when people need cash. And I know I've made several videos griping about cash, cash, cash. Not because I'm greedy, because I'm at the level where I know, what it's like to have only $2 to put in your truck for gas, and, how embarrassing that is at the store, just so you can get to work, and then worry about, I hope I have enough gas, to drive the 30 miles home, until I get paid tomorrow, hope I don't run out of gas on the way home, or, trying to count out how many pennies, you can spend on such and such, and divide it up. And to not, be in a level of poverty where, I can't even buy a Coke or a donut, I mean, that's, to put that kind of pressure on somebody throughout life, that's, the way you should live your life, I don't think that's fair to, I want to say, segregate parts of the economy, that the poor should only be allowed to do this, this, and this, and, poo on them. I don't believe in that mentality. I believe that giving a helping hand up is one of the best ways of helping people get up from that position, to elevate themselves from that position. And yes, there are people who are wasteful, and people who are not good at managing their money, and not in a secure state of mind to be able to do that. That is true. But it's also the same with rich people, or people with, I want to say, middle class jobs, that, wasteful spending in their own home or whatever, but for somebody else to delegate, well, I'm not going to give you this because I think you're going to go spend it on candy and whatever, I just, and as far as, I want to say, I'm looking at my note, Kevin McCarthy, look at your own state. I mean, have you seen the miles of homeless people that are putting up tents? There's whole sections of towns with blocks and blocks, and I think I wish I could remember that guy's name that did the video. I'm gonna try to look that up again. And there's just miles and miles of homeless people who pitch tents on the side of the road, and it's just amazing. That video was just utterly amazing. Just the way he was driving by, just side by side by side by side, every street that he was going down for a mile or more was nothing but tents. And it was in a district with, I think I already discussed this, about the nice apartment buildings that were being boarded up because people can't afford the rent there, or they're losing their jobs, or they're moving, or for whatever reason. Pay attention to your own state. These, and I hate to get political. I'm not trying to divide it up between Republican and Democrat, but if your character is so devoid of humanity that you can't understand, in the middle of a pandemic like this, with people who don't have enough money for food. I mean, the lines for food at a food bank here in Texas were stretching out for like a mile or something like that. It showed it on the news, just cars just, stacked bumper to bumper behind each other. And, as I said before, I went to a food bank last year, or maybe it was the beginning of this year or last year. I can't remember. It was a while back before I got, a pretty good job. And, it's hard to imagine. I didn't have to really stand in a long line like that, but, every so often there was a few cars there. I can't imagine, having to sit there and wait for 2 hours to get a box of food. That's insane, that people, and that's what's happening on the holidays too. People couldn't afford even to buy their holiday dinners. I just think a little bit more humanity needs to be put into this, and people in a position of power, they need to think about what would happen to them, which is, probably not going to affect them telling them something like that, because I don't think they've ever really struggled like the way some people are. And that's an unfortunate part of their character. That's a flaw to me. To me, that's a huge flaw. One of the worst flaws that you can have. It's when you don't have empathy, compassion, or sympathy for somebody else going through something hard. Okay, this is dragging on, so I'm gonna cut it off right here before I start saying stuff that I regret. Thank you so much, and like, comment, subscribe.